Hello, hello, hello. I wonder if we're working. That looks to me like that is not sending audio. Anybody hear me out there? That is not working. Can you hear me? I've got a definite nothing happening on the microphone. Hello, Nathan. Well done. Good man. You can hear, yes? Is that right? Now, yes. Okay, cool. Right, excellent. God, I hate technology so much. Good to have you here, guys. Great, excellent. Nathan, you've really got to sort out that account. That is so distracting having you there as Jackie Cusack, but that's okay. We'll get there. Right. So, good. So last week was a holiday here in the UK and the US. And so we're picking up this Monday Moments. We're going to be looking at a couple of things, actually, what I want to look at today. And obviously, I welcome your questions, guys, right from the start. What we're going to look at is really some of the basics of geomancy, in as much as there's a key difference in shift of perspective that we have to use when we start to work with geomancy and house healing in the way that we teach, the way that we do it, right? And I want to look at that key shift, because if we don't kind of get behind that shift and understand it and allow it to actually seep into our lives, if you like, then actually it's very, very difficult to make sense of the house healing and the results that we find. And in particular, what we're going to look at is why this particular key shift of perspective is important when several dowsers are looking at one particular property. Okay, so in teaching all of this stuff, and in teaching dowsing, I know other people have come across this as well. You know, it's very typical for a tutor, if we put me in that position, to say, right, okay, we're all going to douse Alice's house, right? And so you get 4 dowsers dousing Alice's house for, let's say they're all looking for the detrimental information. They're all looking for exactly the same thing, so they believe. So they find detrimental earth energy lines, they find detrimental spirals, but they're slightly in different places. Why is that? That's what we're going to be looking at later on. Do ask you questions as we go along. First of all, I've got to do some housekeeping stuff, the usual. I know there's only 2 of you here, 3 of you here in the live, but for those that are watching it later on, what we deal with on this channel, if you're new to the channel, is working with our subjective realities, working with intuition, the stuff that is absolutely personal to us. It's not objective reality, it's not scientific, but it's the power of the personal intuition that we work with. And that means we're working with things like dowsing, mindfulness, and meditation. So if that sort of stuff is for you, and working with focused intent, then click on the subscribe and the grey bell icon to get notified when we do an upload. So that's that little bit of YouTubeism. The other thing I want to mention, if anybody's picking this up on a review later on, if you're in the UK and you want to attend a workshop, Adrian Incledon-Webber and myself are running one 29th, 30th of June, just outside Avebury in the south. If you want to come along to that, we've still got places on that. Now, obviously, Nathan, you're in completely the wrong country, as are you, JF. But, it'd be lovely one day if we can get it together. We must try and get an online conference going. That would be the answer. We can do that on, hello, Lawrence. Hello, nice to see you. And then we can all cover some of this material. I think you guys have all so far bought Spirit and Earth, the book. This workshop coming up in the end of June with Adrian is based on some of that material. It's I must get to it. Is about sacred spaces. That's what we're talking about on the workshop at the end of June. So we've got places. Let us know ASAP if you're available in the UK to come along to that, and we will book you in. Okay, so just touching on the book again, another bit of admin. I have to get through this quickly. If you've picked up the yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great, Nathan. Hello, darling. Nice to see you. And Mel, hello. If you've picked up a copy of the book and you've read it and you're taken with it enough to be able to leave a bit of feedback on Amazon, that feedback on the US site or the UK, wherever you got it from, is really, really helpful. It really does help other people kind of, decide whether to buy it or not. So if you could leave a little, hello, Billy. Hi, nice to see you. If you could leave a little bit of feedback on there, if you've read it and you like it, then that would be fantastic. Okay, so let's try. Last time we did this a couple of weeks ago, we had 35 or so people in the live. It's really nice. Let's try and get in the habit of just like putting a question or like at the start, if you want to ask me a direct question or a cue, and I can pick it up immediately. And then I can probably let you guys chat amongst yourselves as well as we go along. Okay, we'll try it. Might work, might not. So is that all the housekeeping? Yes, I think it probably is. Obviously, if anybody's watching this on a replay, if you've got a house healing inquiry, contact me directly using the contact form on my website. If anybody wants to join me on Facebook, I get a trickle of people coming through from the YouTube to join me on Facebook. Don't be put off by the fact that actually my Facebook page is at the moment is a personal page, right? So when I set it up originally, it was set up as, I think, as a business or something like that. You've got the option to either follow it, hello Stevie, nice to see you, or to request the friends, right? I mean, I don't really get Facebook. I really don't. Technology is just beyond me. But if you want to find me on Facebook, then that's fine by me. Send me a friend request, and that's a really easy place to ask questions as well. I won't be one of these people that respond straight away, because I don't. I literally, all my social media is done in the office. I don't have, I actually at the moment, I don't even have a cell phone. So it's not going to be an instant reply, but I'm quite happy to answer questions through Facebook if that's the way that you prefer. I think the way that we're going to be going in the future is that I will set up some pages. I will set up a page, for example, on Facebook for private group where clients and ex-clients can actually have private conversations, because obviously in those circumstances, those individuals might want to discuss very specific things, and that is not the sort of stuff that we want to be necessarily open to the public. But that's in the future, and I've got to figure out how I balance YouTube time and the time of actually doing the house healing work and developing the other stuff as well, right? Because at the moment, I'm really just going around in circles. And for any of you that are watching this that I have been doing a mini report for, or a full report on the house recently, you will know that I have been rather chasing my tail. So I come with this rainbow. It's coming right through from, it's a crystal I've got in the window. So yeah. I've been chasing my tail, but it doesn't matter because we've got rainbows, so it's okay. But no, I apologize to those of you that have been waiting a little bit longer than I said you would be. So, but keep those inquiries coming, because it's great to do the work. Okay, so now what I talked about a couple of minutes ago. Hello, Nancy. Hello. Yeah, loving the rainbows. They've really come out just now. We've had days and days of yeah, you could. Yes, exactly, Mel. Well done. So that should so I can show that. I didn't realize. Okay, got to show that. Yeah. So Mel is saying, hello, Summer. Mel is saying that if you just follow, you can't comment. So do send a friend request, right? There you go. Mel knows this stuff. I don't. Right. Let's talk about the rainbow's gone, which is great. So I want to talk about the shift of perspective that really is necessary when we're doing the house healing work, when we're doing the dowsing work, when we're working for somebody on the geomancy. Now, it still applies to you guys, JF and Nathan and you others that are, not practicing the actual healing work as yet, because you can apply this shift of perspective to day-to-day life, and that's really why it applies to everything that we do on this channel. Now, what I see a lot, and I'll just let you into this because I think it adds to the picture, and certainly on people watching it on review, it might help make sense of why we've got a seemingly quite a disparate sort of content on this channel. So NDEs, near-death experiences, right? People come here looking for the near-death experience video of Hamish Miller. Get a lot of people looking at that. And then they come across some of my other material, which is talking about spirits and dowsing, and they don't connect between the near-death experience and why I'm talking about this other stuff. Now, some people, of course, are actually quite spooked by spirit and the idea of spirit, but really, what's integral to all of this is that that's what we are. You know, we have been so misled into thinking that the spirit world is something completely separate and is something that should be feared. Now, that you have to be wise, you have to be a bit sensible about interacting with the spirit world, especially if you want to go in deep. But fundamentally, you know, the reason that I have this sort of seemingly disparate stuff on the channel is the very opposite reason, because it is all absolutely connected. In my mind, it makes complete sense that it's all connected. Now, somebody coming to it with a different perspective isn't going to see the connection straight away. So for me, let's just quickly run through a bit of the background and why I see all of this stuff connected, right? And that'll lead you to where we're going with this this kind of shift of perspective that we need when we're doing the healing work, when we're working with focused intent. I hope. I mean, just say if it gets boring or you want to ask questions as we go along. I'm quite happy for you to ask questions at any time. So if we start off from the near-death experience material, right? So when I met Hamish, the integral thing that completely affected Hamish Miller, my mentor for 7 years, was his near-death experience. Anybody that goes through an experience like that, and we see it on all the video evidence on well, thanks Billy, that's very kind, on YouTube. Every person that goes through those sort of experiences has their life changed. Now, ordinarily, and 99% of the time, near-death experiences actually are a tremendously uplifting and positive experience. It's about 1%, maybe a little bit more than that, where the person actually goes through some kind of really quite torturous event, which is not pleasant. But nonetheless, usually the person comes back with a real life change kind of perspective on everything. And Hamish always said that he always felt that he actually left a part of himself up there with the management once he'd come back. And that's important to me because, of course, in the spiritual thinking, you know, we refer to our higher selves and we refer to our connection that goes upstairs to the management. But what we forget is that actually that connection is a viewpoint, is a perspective, and we can adjust our perspective from being a human being into that spiritual perspective, and that's where all the power is in many, many senses. So Hamish Miller, NDEs. Other people have near-death experience. What does it do? Well, it doesn't prove that there's life after death. It doesn't prove that. What it does, though, is, you know, if you've ever met anybody that has had one, is that they are absolutely adamant that when they pass over at the end of their life properly, that they will, hi, Joseph, hi, good to see you, that they will pass through into the world of that united consciousness and that place of the management work that is really built upon pure love. So they have that complete and utter faith. But in a sort of detached way, it doesn't prove life after death. But for me, meeting Hamish, once he'd, you know, and realizing that he'd had this massive spiritual experience, when I was going through, hello, Nandarana, wow, namaste, okay, so let's come to that in a sec. So once I'd met Hamish and seen his, you know, his passion about meeting the management like that, it made a lot more sense of how I could possibly be having experiences, you know, the experiences that I was having in the house where I was living at the time, meeting the guardian energy, the spirit energy, that lady that had a life as a human being and was now there in spirit, doing something completely, you know, at the time I thought completely bizarre. So seeing Hamish's experience and then my experience, this helped me make sense of what the heck was going on over here, right? Both with this spirit thing going on, both featuring these earth energy lines, right? So it made a lot of sense. The interconnectedness was there straight away. To me, it didn't make sense not for these NDEs to kind of exist in their own separateness. Hello, Houston. Hi, good to see you. So let's just answer this question here. So can a NDE attract a spirit possession? Well, okay. So my personal experience is that I haven't met anybody that's attracted a spirit possession, an adverse spirit possession, from experiencing an NDE. However, if you're talking from experience, Nandarine, what I would suggest is that if you feel as though you have, or if you know somebody that has, then what we would need to understand is more about the actual nature of the NDE. How did that come about? What kind of mental state were you in, or the person in at the time? What kind of emotional state? All of these sort of things as background, so that we could then look at what the possible encounter was, right? To be honest, this isn't the forum for that, but I'm quite happy to try to sort of work that through with you if you like. How does one clear with dowsing? Well, if you have a look at some of the other videos, then you'll start to get the idea of how one can clear energy fields per se. Okay, have a look around. If you can't find what you're looking for, drop me a line on the website, or if, as I say, dig me out on Facebook. Okay, so what I was saying was that for me at that time, NDEs and spirit in this world were just made complete sense. It made sense of what was happening to me. Where am I going? I know, because Hamish had also not just this experience with the NDE. He was a dowser and working with earth energy, but he also had this experience on his own path about healing work, and his healing work was based only on the one-to-one individuals. Hello, Lyndon. Hi. Yeah, I'll do that in a sec. His healing work was based not only with individuals, but also crucially in following the work of Colin Bloy, who I think it was the 70s, might even have been late 60s, actually, I think it was. And Colin Bloy was a guy in the UK who set up an organization, a very loosely structured organization called Fountain International. And what Colin was doing, and the group of which Hamish became a member of that group, was sending positive focused intent, positive love and emotion, positivity, the healing energy that you get when you work with spirit, with the management, and the healing energy that you can use for hands-on healing or for remote healing. Colin Bloy was finding that working in a group, they used to actually go to towns, specific towns. I actually started in Brighton, which is a town on the southern coast in the UK, in England, and they started work there. They would go as a group to the centre of the town, or find the power centre, actually, as it turned out, using dowsing. So this is all very tied up with what Hamish was about. You can see this. And there they would start to do exactly what we do now as an individual, as a house healer. When we work with the management and we ask for the focused intent, the loving, positive, healing energy to go as appropriate to a space, what Colin was doing it as a group in the late 60s, early 70s. And he chose Brighton as a place to start because that, at the time, was being terribly troubled by massive fights of gangs, especially on bank holidays, between, as it was then, the mods and the rockers. So, both kind of just lifestyle teenage things. So they would, on a bank holiday, congregate down at Brighton and kick the hell out of each other. And so, not a great thing. Police would get involved. And Fountain International really was sort of set up to, after what appeared to be effective healing, because once they had started work and using focused intent in the space within Brighton, a lot of that trouble started to dissipate. Now, we can't say directly, we can't say adamantly 100%, as we never can with energy work. 100%, this was due to this work. We can't say it, but it was good enough for them to believe that they were having an effect. And they went on to do some more work up in London in Notting Hill. And Notting Hill used to be a considerably different place to what it is now. Now it's still actually quite a trendy, it's quite a well-developed upmarket area. It used to be in the 70s, really quite run down, and they had a carnival, and they used to have a heck of a lot of trouble. Still have the carnival, but they don't have the trouble. But a fountain, so Colin and Hamish and that group of people used to go up and be on the location where they were working and send that positive, yeah, exactly, Nathan, quadrophenia, would send the positive energy into the power center. And gradually things got better. So from that, you can actually Google Fountain International, and you'll find that they're still in existence. There are still groups doing exactly this sort of work. And really, it is the premise of exactly the same that we use, and Darlene will know this, in house healing. So we, as a one individual, are asking the management to do the work in a house. They really get together as a group, if you like, and send that emotion, that healing power. Now, we know also from work of Lynn McTaggart and people like that, and we've taught it in religions, of course, Christianity, obviously that's the one that I was brought up with, that any time that a group gets together, then the healing positive power of that group is magnified. The power of a group is far greater than just the power of one. Brighton now is fantastic. It's great. So where am I going with this? What I'm saying is that the for me at that time, NDEs, spirit in this world, this dimension, healing power of intent was all coming together. And again, through Hamish, the fact that you could douse and you could see earth energy lines and you go to the sacred spaces. And immediately what that said to me was, well, the ancients knew about exactly what we're talking about. They knew about the focus power of intent. And the only way that this can all be tied together is because it's a part of being human. And that is the key thing. So the shift that we need in order to see some of the things that don't make sense when we look at it in healing work, energy healing work, the shift that we need is to perceive ourselves, to change our perspective and look at it from the management's point of view, from a spiritual being. We still have that connection. We have that kind of umbilical connection all the time. We're here, we just forget about it. But you have to look at things from the spiritual perspective, from your viewpoint as an aspect of spirit, of that universal consciousness. And what I'm going to say now is one of these classic examples of when you have to do this, because if you have those 4 dowsers that I mentioned earlier on, all working on one house, the client, let's call her Alice, those 4 dowsers are all going to end up with slightly different results on their floor plans. They will probably all find detrimental earth energy lines. They will probably all find detrimental earth energy spirals. They will, hi, Dixie, good man, 1 o'clock in the morning. And they will all find these things, but they will be slightly different. Students, when they do this exercise, they expect, even though they've usually been told by the tutor, to find identical information, because that's what we expect to find here in the physical plane, in the physical realm. We expect everything to be the same for everybody, but that isn't even true, though. We individually perceive information, even in the physical realm, in completely different ways, utterly different. And not only is it in the things that we know about, most of us know about, like we perceive colors slightly differently. We know that some people get colorblind and others don't. Everybody's interpretation, Mel, is different, absolutely. And you take it further into that spirit realm, that realm of being an individual viewpoint from the greater consciousness. And okay, does that make sense? So that, because that's what we are. We are each holy beings. We are spiritual beings. We are allowing the greater consciousness, the management, God, if you want, to actually experience being through us in this dimension. It's like, you know, if you imagine that the roots of a tree or the roots of a flower just permeating out, and each of us is one of those little individual tendrils going through that, and is enabling all of that information, that nutrient, to go back up to the flower. So in our emotional processing that we call life, that is what is going back to the universe, to God, to that ultimate creator eventually. And so we are a perspective on information, because that's all this is. This is information, and what we're exchanging now is information. So when you've got those 4 dowsers and they're all doing some work on Alice's house, then the reason that they will get slightly different interpretations, slightly define things in slightly different ways, is because, let's say this is me doing the dowsing. I have an individual connection here with Alice. We're working on Alice. We're intending to bring about change for the better in her life. That's why we're doing the dowsing. I am an individual point of awareness, of perspective, coming into this information exchange with all the information that I've gathered through my lifetime. Okay, I mean, again, we have to kind of zigzag back between being human, being spirit, being human, being spirit, because the human element has the baggage, has a different perspective. The spirit element is kind of maintained back here, is sort of maintaining a consistency. But do you see what I'm getting at? The individual relationship between the 4 dowsers and their individual baggage, I was going to say, but their individual life experience coming to bear upon Alice's issue, Alice's circumstance, the information of Alice, they are all slightly different. And that is reflected in what shows up on the floor plan. Okay, so Kathy, absolutely, it is awesome, because actually the concept is awesome, but it's a really difficult one to actually kind of get your head around and to actually then start to live. But it's exactly the same concept, and everybody right now run off this, right? But it's exactly the same concept that the law of attraction really is built upon. Okay, I mean, all of that stuff in The Secret and the Course in Miracles and all of that stuff really is coming out, is saying exactly the same thing. And even dear old Bruce Lipton, as a qualified biologist, cell biologist, his perspective now is really saying exactly the same thing. And part of the reason that we can say some of this stuff with at least a little bit of kind of common sense, or perhaps it was sort of saying it's not just pure fancy, is because of the way that science is going and allowing advances in understanding of neuroscience and the quantum fields of information exchange effectively. We're not saying that this proves what I've just said. What we're saying is, look, there are hints here, there are clues here about what we find when we do energy healing work. But equally, if you don't shift your perspective and look at the situation from spirit in that completely one-on-one exchange of the individual and the importance of the individual, and the importance of the individual is important in itself, then you get completely confused. Because if you look at it and you just say, what are 4 different results there? It doesn't work. Science or an objective thinker would just say, well, it's clearly nonsense. But it's not. And we know it's not in energy work because we know that a client has changed. Something occurs, something changes, right? So there's sort of empirical, experiential evidence. So, yeah, right. So these experiences are wonderful, Billy, aren't they? They really are. And we all sort of like to try to get them, have them, and share them. It's really important to share them. But also at the same time, there's some real core, crucial stuff that occurs all the time on a grounded, it's very subtle level where we don't get the wow. The wows are fantastic because they help us understand and appreciate that we've actually got that support. But some subtle shifts occur all the time whenever we shift our perspective. Lyndon, can I just sit quietly and achieve enough focused intent to heal? Yeah, really, Lyndon. The meditation is key. The meditation is key. There is a video in the back catalogue. If you can look on the video page, there is one about meditation and healing, and it's quite an old one. And what it is that really what we find, and other people have found this, of course, as well, is that the brainwave patterns when one goes into meditation, and that includes HIT dowsing as well. The brainwave pattern for dowsing is incredibly similar to the meditative brainwave pattern, which is what is required. It's the same as what is required for healing. The day-to-day monkey chatter that we go through when we're thinking about stuff that's going to happen, the stuff that we did do, the stuff when we get stressed, all of this is not the same as the brainwave pattern that in which successful dowsing, successful healing, successful meditation takes place. And meditation is the bedrock of the dowsing and the healing. So focused intent is only going to work when you're in, no, that's not strictly true. Focused intent for healing, especially in the house healing type modality, really only works when we've got a really good solid connection into that brainwave pattern, which allows that connection to upstairs, and that's built upon the discipline of meditation. So it will vary for each individual geomancer. Each individual house healer will have their own particular techniques and their own abilities. Some will, be able to clear things with focused intent simply by, they'll do it walking along the street, right? Some will do a general clearing just simply walking along the street. I can't do that. I have to really sit and focus. Again, it's the power of belief, because I just said I can't do that. That's because I believe I can't do that. If I believed I could do that, then I could do that. Belief is so important. LAS, can location restrict focus intention? Well, if you're asking, is focused intention affected by where you are, then if you are sitting under a massive great cell phone tower, for example, then yeah, those radio frequencies are going to have an effect on you. If you believe they are going to have an effect on you. If you're sitting on a tube train, an underground train, you're going to be flying around space. It's not going to be helpful. The focused intent, really, you need to be aware of what your own capabilities are. But to start with, the quieter the space, the better, so that the least distractions there are around you, the better. But as you get more experience with it, and as you the more, hang on, I'll come to your question in a minute, Dixie. Thanks for that. That's really helpful. That's a really, once you get more experience in exercising focused intent, and you get more confident with it because you're starting to see results, and you see some real, basically Newtonian, cause and effect, which doesn't always happen. You have to be aware as well when we do this that the cause and effect isn't always direct. But the more you get used to it, then the more you'll know your own capabilities and what works for you and what doesn't. Okay, Dixie, let's come back to this. What's my interpretation of 3D, 4D, 5D? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to answer that, Dixie, because the three-dimensional world is fine. We know that. One way, whatever the other way is that I didn't do that way. And the fourth dimension is often quoted as being time. But then when we get into spiritual thinking, sometimes people are quoting us as saying, well, we're going, ascension, or this process of change that we're all going through. I don't like to label it as ascension, but that's fine if people want to call it ascension. Other people say we're going to the fourth dimension, and they say, well, actually, no, it can't be fourth dimension because that's time. So it's going to the fifth dimension. Yeah, well, it's all different dimensions. Go with it. The bottom line is that it's not the label that you use to clarify. It's the way you perceive what you understand by the label that you use. So if somebody refers to 4D and believes that is the change in vibration that is happening, it doesn't matter that the label they use is 4D. You might use, Dixie, you might use 5D. Doesn't matter, fifth dimension, doesn't matter what it is. The point is, what is it about? What does it mean to you? It means that, I would understand that what you're getting at is okay, what you're getting at is, hang on, I'm going to come back and read some of those comments. What I'm getting at, what I think you're getting at is saying that everybody is going through a shift of energy, and some people call it 5 going into the fifth dimension. Other people refer to it as being the fourth dimension and that sort of thing. Okay, let's just catch up with what you're talking about down here, because belief is definitely the key. Okay, Lyndon, and actually there are different levels of belief as well, right? Which we also kind of understand anyway, because we know that if somebody has complete faith in a process, 100%, let's say it's a healing information exchange, then that's going to work. It's going to be a positive outcome, and in some senses that is sometimes called a miracle, because the amount of belief by all parties concerned in that healing can create a change that is so unexpected it can only be described as a miracle. Now, I haven't been involved in any of those sort of things, but belief is fundamental to the process, the structure. As a healer, you have to believe. And I think that's what Mel's getting at there. Amazing, the difference between house healers who believe nothing changes without action, copper rods, crystals, and those who use focus, intent, and the management. Okay, well, Dixie, no, Mel, it's belief. Yes, it's belief, right? But Dixie, if you think about this, if what baffles you, I know House with Load Spirit in it in the ground. Okay, well, I'm going to let you just kind of have that conversation. But what I want to say is, I think what we've touched on before, in that what Mel is getting at is that you can do house healing with focused intent. You can also do house healing by going to the house and banging the copper rods in. But it's actually exactly the same. What's happening is that this house healer is trusting and believes that that process, that connection to the management that everybody has, will do the job. This house healer hasn't been trained like that. So they are still using focused intent, but as they go around with their rods hammering, look at what I'm doing, right? I'm hammering a piece of metal into the ground, and I'm believing that by hammering, using this energy, physical energy, kinetic energy, hammer, 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 focused intent, hammer, 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 this is going to make a difference. Person over here, using the energy of spirit, it's not a kinetic energy, using the energy that is held in place by that faith, that trust, is doing exactly the same thing. Ceremony, that's the power of ceremony. It's movement, it's repeated action. It's ceremony also ties into past energy. So it's got even other types of energy coming in, and energy of the ancestors. But it's all built around belief, and the actual action that causes change is the focused intent. It's just there's that way of focused intent, that way of focused intent, and then ceremony, for example, adds in additional layer of energy into the focused intent. So this is why some people, when they look at this sort of stuff, I presume that comes out the right way around. They will talk about it and be scared of it because they think it's magic. Now, this book, actually, Real Magic, is by Dean Radin, and he's a scientist. He's using the word magic, I mean, not only as a catchy title, but in the sense that magic, in the sense of quantum physics, spooky action at a distance, entanglement in the quantum realm, means that you can adjust one particle over here and a particle anywhere in the universe will do exactly the same thing if they've been entangled, right? And part of what we're dealing with as an energy being is that exact same interconnection. Hello, Lady K. Hi. Nice to see you there. Right, Dixie, did that make any sense? Just reading your lines there as well, guys. Yeah, Dixie, did that make sense to you? Did that make more sense? Have you received anything in the post yet? Okay, not yet. It'll probably be there. I did look again this morning. Sort of. Okay. Okay, so let me just reiterate this because it is actually really, really fundamental, and I know it's really important in what you're trying to do, Dixie. And it really is the key thing that is holding you back in a way. And it's not a bad thing to be in the position that you're in, because you're simply going through a process of trying to understand and allowing your awareness of what you are shift. I mean, that's fundamentally what you're doing, right, in where you are. So completely lost the train of thought there. Dixie, what were you doing? Go back to what I was saying earlier on, which is that human beings, we are human beings. We are in the physical realm. We are also spiritual beings, and we never lose that connection. When we try to focus intent, because humans don't understand the full power of the subtle world, we have to force ourselves to do things that we associate with as human beings. So we know that hammering a nail into the wall will allow us to hang something on that nail. That is a familiar context for physical life. If we were all having this conversation in spirit, we would know for certainty that action of hammering a nail into the wall in order to hang something on wouldn't be necessary, because it would be a completely different set of circumstances, completely different laws of physics applying to that dimension, that realm, the spirit realm. Yeah, it was close there, Nathan. I wasn't holding him back. It's just he doesn't come through very often because I'm usually too kind of hyper in this circumstance. So, but that was what he was saying. He was pausing there to allow that to come in. Yeah, it's work in progress, Dixie. That's fine. So, what we're saying is allowing ourselves. You see, it's not anything to be sort of frustrated by. This fact that you can't get your head around what we're talking about, or you can't kind of. It's not. You're feeling like it's not. You're not getting a penny drop moment, because you will. And like I said earlier, you might not have been online when I said it. It is actually a very complicated thing to try to do. And what you're trying to do is to actually shift your whole perspective on what you are, what you're doing here. That is not easy. That is not easily done. Now, a lot of people have enough trouble trying to shift their perspective to understand from another personal human being's point of view, let alone try to put themselves into the mindset or the viewpoint of spirit. So don't get stressed by kind of the fact you feel as though you're struggling, because if you pay attention to your dreams, Dixie, particularly I'm talking to you at the moment, if you pay attention to your dreams, if you can pay attention to your dreams, if you can try a little bit of lucid dreaming, and that's where you know when you're dreaming that you are dreaming, then you can ask these sort of questions of the people you meet in your dreams and try to remember the answers, because these are the machinations of your subconscious working and allowing and communicating with spirit in your dream state. And that will help you come through with the penny drop moment. And I'm quite happy to keep yeah, that's what it is, Mel. That's funny. I'm quite happy to keep reiterating and trying to explain it in different ways, and I know it's really important to you. Okay, all right. So I think I started off talking about really the importance of just trying to shift that perspective, and we've gone into quite detail of hello Brad, hello, nice to see you, good morning. I'm actually just starting to wrap up, but we'll be here for 10 minutes or so, so I hope you can just join in on the back end of this, catch up with the rest of it later on. So yeah, started talking, we started this thing today from the point of view that I wanted to try to get you to think about this shift of perspective. Okay, Dixie, yeah, good man. And I hope it's helped a little bit, right? So I've talked about it in terms of really being useful and of use, and really being imperative in when working on a house. But you can look at it, you can use this, you can think about trying to shift your perspective when you look at what's going on in your own life. I mean, that's really why it's so important as well, you know, because it's not just about sort of a detached way of thinking when, oh, well, that's for them because they're house healers. It's actually for everybody to think about that importance of being a spiritual being. And it's when we lose that focus that actually a lot of the troubles that we perceive to be around us can get on top of us and can overwhelm us. It's when we lose that perspective of being a spiritual being. It's really important. And how do you change that perspective when you're, you know, finding somebody that you're getting really wound up by, for example, or maybe you're in a job that you really don't like, and you know, you might say, well, how does it help by shifting my perspective on this job? Well, what you do is you remember that basically life is symbolic, and I know I say this a lot, but it is. And so therefore, look at what you're encountering on a day-to-day basis. What are the emotional exchanges that you're having? What information is being exchanged? What is the symbolism that is being shown to you? What do you think the really annoying boss that comes over, and it's not that he yells at you, but it's just something about him that you really don't like? What is it? What does he symbolize in your life? Is it something about you that you don't like? Is it something about your thinking that you don't like? Is it something about your mannerisms that you don't like? Your own self, you know, I mean, don't pull yourself apart and, you know, end up in a depressive state, but look at it objectively. Oh, excuse me. Look at it objectively and just say, what is this representing in my life? And what do I have to do? What do I have to do? Lady K, did you go away? I don't understand. I missed something there. What do I have to do in my life to try and shift that energy? Because if we accept that we are co-creators, then the issues in our life are due to learnings to be achieved from within. And that is the spiritual perspective. That's all part of that spiritual perspective. That's what we're here for. So, following a spiritual path is not like it's not like trying to be angelic and trying to be, well, to me, it isn't, trying to be as goody as possible. It's about self-improvement. That's why, that's why these things are called self-development classes that you can go to in the neighborhood. It's about trying to improve and shift your perspective. There's various bits of etiquette in the comments section that I still have no idea about. I know Billy has quite a lot of experience of working at it. Have you got any final questions, ladies and gents? Because we'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes. We are not saints. No, absolutely, Lady K. And I don't think that we really need. Well, I mean, there's of course we have to. The classic. It's a Wiccan law, actually, isn't it? That they say, do as you would have done to you. That's the one law of Wicca. And I'm not a great fan. I'm not, kind of advocating Wicca work. But that, it is still focused intent. It's a type of focused intent. It's a type of way of living a focused intent. Spell casting is not a great kind of system to get involved with because of all of the background to it, the history of it. We talked about ceremony earlier on, and part of the power of ceremony and part of the power of spell casting is because of the back history. You don't really want to be bringing a lot of that through. In this time, in this now, this existence, we don't need that ancestor energy to make things change. This is where we're going. We're learning what we are as a species, as spiritual beings. So we don't need to do that kind of archaic energy work. We're working with the best possible and the highest possible vibrations. And I would suggest that a lot of Wicca work, sorry if you're into Wicca, isn't of the best possible highest. Everything we do is in alignment with the divine will, and it has to be, because we're a part of the divine. But setting that intention is a part of that focused intention. It's a part of alignment with the utmost good. And that we have to do in all of this work. And I will always say that that is the case. And that is the big difference between what we do and some of the less aspects of it. I'm not going to use any words because it labels and it puts into compartments. Okay, well, we've got 5 minutes or so. So if there's any other questions there as we go on. I don't know whether Brad's got any there from Canada. You're dialed in. Oh, okay, you went. Okay, yeah, take care, LAS. Take care. Quite happy to answer any last ones. We do have quite a delay on the comment section, so I'm fairly chilled with it. Are you all questioned out? I'm glad it was helpful, Nancy. It's booting you off. Oh, what? The system is booting you off, is it? Oh, no. Chat next time, yeah. Cheers, guys. Cheers, Dixie. Thanks for staying up or waking up. Okay, so do spirits gain knowledge? Well, yes, Nathan. It's yeah. Thanks, Billy. Cheers, Dixie. Billy, it's a good question, and we'll probably finish with this one. Okay, so don't forget, when you're talking about spirits, you're talking about tending to talk about those that are disincarnates. Quite often, those that are left behind that haven't completed their journey. You might not be asking that question. Okay, but basically the purpose, as we go from one life to the next, we are a spiritual being developing knowledge and ascending in the echelons, if you like, of the management. It's part of that growth process. So we as a human being will have gone through lives already. We know about past lives. We are, as that spiritual aspect is continuing to amass knowledge and grow. And as when we go back after one life, then that is adding to that knowledge of that energy field that is us. So I will still have energy associated from my past lives, which is why sometimes past life healing is appropriate. but overall, a energy packet, an aspect of each individual spirit is developing all the time. Lyndon, how do you switch off and get into the focused intent? Well, again, that really is coming into the meditation and mindfulness, Lyndon. Have a good old rummage around the videos. If there are ones that you I don't know, you may not have seen some of them. Really, it's the importance of meditation, but mindfulness in particular. I'll try and remember to put a link to a particular mindfulness book. If I can, I'll try and do that tonight when this goes online. There's a really good, simple book on mindfulness, which is simple to follow, is what I mean. And that really will help you if you're feeling like you just can't click in. Thanks, Stevie. Nice. Thanks, Mel. Thanks for staying up. Back to the cricket. Oh, cricket. There's cricket. Who knew? Okay. Cheers, Nathan. JF, when we work with, spirit elementals to do stuff, is it not a kind of magic? Yes. Well, I mean, again, well, you see, it's the label, JF. It's the label. I don't like using the word magic in that sense because it has the connotations of the ancestors, of the past, of wizardry. And I don't think that the way that we're trying to use focused intent and work with the highest of the high is, well, yes, it is magic because it produces magical results, and it is magic because we don't really understand it. But, I would rather not use the word magic because it, scares a lot of people. I mean, working with elementals, working with wild energies is very shamanic as well. So we could use the term shamanism. So this is why really I'm trying to really get to just the nub of the part of the power of the human being is to have this ability to affect the subtle energies. And if it be through working with an association with elementals, then that is one way. That be one way. They here be dragons. So yeah, exactly. It's how we use the word, how we use the label, what box do we put it in? It's all of that stuff. Brace yourself with mindfulness, but Marmite with. Oh right, okay, go to. Yeah. Check out some Buddhist stuff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't like mindfulness, Billy, that's fine. It's fine. But some people find it a really useful way to actually start just to stop and take note and take action, or a different sort of action rather than the habitual one. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to click the button that says it's ended. Thank you very much for being there, bearing with me 2-week breaks. And next week we'll be back. Yes, there are I can never say his name. Tich Nat Han is brilliant. That's right, JF. See ya. No, exactly. Yeah, Enchantress. Yeah, exactly. Lady K. It's this sort of thing. Thank you, Nandarine. Take care. Cheers, Nathan. Okay, bye now. Yeah, exactly. Cheers, Billy. I'm going to press the button now. All right, bye. Bye all. See you next week. Don't know what we'll talk about, but it'd be great. Cheers. See you then.